Om Nidhaye sarva-vidyanām bhishaje bhavaroginām gurave sarva-lokānām dakshināmurtaye namah. In this webinar, we wish to reflect, think loudly on the very unique form of God, the Supreme, and that form is no other than Shri Dakshināmurti. First of all, one God appears in many forms. One God is Shiva, one God himself is Vishnu, that one God himself is Brahma, that one God himself appears in a feminine form also, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, and so on. In Sanatana Dharma, therefore, it is not really polytheism. There is one God, one supreme truth, which in fact appears as many forms of God with an interplay between them. And what is more, in the Advaita vision, that one God is the Jiva also, the universe also. Therefore, depending upon the fitness of the student, of the spiritual seeker, depending upon how much the mind of that student has attained purity, sharpness, one will be able to appreciate this grand unitary vision. Thus, what we are discussing in this session is the significance of one of the extraordinary forms of that supreme truth, and that is Dakshināmurti. What does the very word Dakshināmurti mean? Scholars give two meanings to Dakshināmurti. Maybe there are more also, but the two which are often given are, number one, Dakshinābhimukha murtihi yasya saha. That form of God where murtihi, that particular taking form, you see, murta means form, amurta means formless. Murti, therefore, is the divine having taken a form. Dakshinābhimukha murtihi. God has taken a form, and it so happens that that particular form is Dakshina Abhimukha, facing the south. Lord Shiva, when he appeared as Dakshināmurti in the most ancient times, he was seated in the north, in the Himalayas, and he was, even as himself was seated in the north, facing the south. In lot of works, lot of philosophical creations, there is certain symbolism which is consistently followed, and according to that, south represents death. Therefore, while doing a puja, while doing sandhya vandana, while performing many other rituals, we the human beings, we the jivatmas, are asked not to face the south. Face the east, face the west, or face the north, but avoid facing the south, we are told. But Lord Shiva is Mrityunjaya. He is the conqueror of death. He therefore can face the south with no fear at all. And when he faces the south, all of us, while facing the north, receive the grace from Dakshināmurti. What does the north represent then? If the south represents death, north represents moksha, liberation. In the famous illustration or metaphor of Mundaka Upanishad, we have those two birds, Dva Suparna Sayuta Sakhaya Samana Vriksham Parishasva Jate, and so on. In three mantras, the Upanishad gives us a metaphor with vast significance, finally pointing out the possibility of radical transformation within us. There are two birds on the same tree. One represents Jivatma, the individual soul suffering from many limitations. The second represents Paramatma, God, Ishvara, free from any limitations. And the second bird is ever peaceful. The face of the second bird is radiant with joy, happiness, with that sense of ever completeness. The first bird, representing the jiva, is lost for a long time, eating the fruits of the tree, which are more often bitter and sometimes sweet. The first bird is at a loss to know how to proceed, and sometime during its long quest or search, it chances upon the second bird. It looks at the second bird. Till then, it was looking elsewhere, as we call it, knocking at wrong doors. Jivatmas, all of us also look for happiness in wealth. We look for happiness in big houses. We look for happiness. We look for lasting happiness in positions. But while we do get some happiness, some bouts of happiness here and there, by and large, we remain insecure and anxious. Then a major milestone is reached in our quest for true happiness when we turn to spirituality. We turn to spirituality with all earnestness. It's indeed a major milestone when we really turn towards spirituality. What is this really turning towards spirituality? When there is a deep conviction, when there is unwavering conviction that I must know the truth, and knowing the truth alone will set us free, set me free. Otherwise, a whole lot of people, even those living in ashrams wearing some special clothes and other marks of religiosity, alas, in their heart of hearts might still be seeking some popularity or fame or patronage from rich people, or we don't know, it could be anything. So in our heart of hearts, if there is a certain seeking, there is a very single-pointed seeking called mumukshutva, properly supported by viveka, vairagya, shama, dama, and so on, then we can add the adverb. We have now truly become spiritual. Otherwise, yeah, we have been spiritual. We've been doing a lot of noise in the name of God and everything. But alas, sometimes others know, sometimes without others knowing, we know in our heart of hearts. We are looking for pleasure, power, position, fame, name, emotional validation, as somebody called it. We want more and more people to tell us, you are on the right path, you are such a nice lady, you are such a nice man. And then we feel good. We look at them and say, thank you. Did you really mean it? Am I really a good man? Am I really a good lady? And when that other party says, I mean it, ah, we feel so reassured. This is all. We don't really look down at those stages, but they are not any sign of true maturity. A mumukshu does not care for somebody's certification of his or her being on the right path. So the first bird gazes at the second bird, is puzzled for a while, is in great awe for some time, and then is unable to turn its face away. The first bird goes on looking at the second bird. Jiva goes on looking at, staring at the Paramatma, and the Upanishad says, Paramam Samyam Upaiti. The first bird undergoes an unbelievable transformation, culminating in Paramam Samyam. Samyam means samata, equality, identity. The first bird transforms into exactly what the second bird has been from time immemorial. The first bird lets go of its fear and other limitations and actually experiences divinity. Vivekananda said, the purpose of religion is to attain the divinity which is already in you. We already have divinity in us, and true religion, true spirituality helps us discover that divinity. So one meaning of Dakshināmurti thus is the Murti, that divine form of God, of Shiva, facing the south. Another is, many of you know the word Daksha means efficient. Dakshata is efficiency. Dakshina is an adjective of same derivation or same source. Dakshina means efficient or samartha, extremely capable. For the Lord is capable of creating, sustaining, and destroying this entire world, this entire universe. So Dakshinaha means capable of Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya. Then how does the whole name Dakshināmurti come? You split as per Savarna Dirgha Sandhi. Dakshina plus Amurtaha, which then becomes Amurti. He is supremely efficient, supremely capable of creating this inexplicable, splendorous universe, and in his true nature, in his Swarupa, he is Amurta. No one can know what his form, her form is. The Supreme God is in his own nature formless. So we have this very, very unique form of Dakshināmurti, especially representing the great Jnana Yoga. For if you see the four hands of this Dakshināmurti, Shiva is seated below a banyan tree. Vata vitapi samipe bhumi bhage nishannaha goes one of the dhyana shlokas. Another chitram vatataror mule vruddha shishya gurur yuva gurostu maunam vyakhyanam shishyastu chinna samshayaha. The word chitram at places can mean beautiful, but here chitram means most wonderful and even amazing or astonishes us. Chitra is what is astonishing. Why is it astonishing? Normally, gurus are old and shishyas are young, but here it is the opposite. The Guru Dakshināmurti, seated below a banyan tree, Vriddha Guruhu Yuva, this teacher is young, and Vriddhaha Shishyaha. Typically, it is shown as four students, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Sujata. Four of these disciples, old rishis with long white beards, are sitting and listening to a great discourse by Dakshināmurti, and it is really truly great because it is of the nature of silence. Mauna Vyakhyana is the word used. Though some people who relentlessly uphold the place of Shastra say that in the Vedanta tradition, Mauna does not liberate you, it is the Mahavakya. Then how do you explain the silent sage in the form of Dakshināmurti? These Shastris say that Mauna is what follows a verbal discourse. We can reconcile the whole issue in this way too. The very, very mature students have heard Mahavakya, have studied Vedanta, have made themselves available for Shabda Pramana. Tattvamasi is three words, Shabdas, Tat, Tvam, and Asi. Shabdas, it is also called Aptavakya, the supreme wisdom of our being, the unlimited pure awareness alone and not the body at all, is made available to us through an Aptavakya, through the words of the Upanishads. And following the students listening to Aptavakya from the Guru, they remain in contemplation. They go into a deep and quiet appreciation of the truth of that statement. If you were to take a snapshot of that moment where the students have gone silent, the teacher also has gone silent, then that snapshot will show the Guru being silent. In other words, in the journey to enlightenment, the place of an Aptavakya, place of Shabda Pramana, place of verbal instruction is unavoidable. You cannot compromise with it. This is a wonderful view by especially those who hold on to the place of the Shastra. Vedanta Vakyena eva jnanam bhavati. Vakya is important. So we reconcile it. However, the final scene is Gurostu Maunam Vyakhyanam. So in the picture that sometimes you obtain of Dakshināmurti, go for a very popular pictorial representation of Dakshināmurti, you will find that he holds one of his hands in Chin Mudra. In Chin Mudra, you have the index finger, which is generally along with the middle finger, the ring finger, and the small finger. Generally, it is with those three fingers, but this index finger comes to the thumb. The thumb represents Paramatma, and the index finger is the ego in us. This ego, as long as it is with the other three fingers, middle, ring, and small, is with body, mind, and intellect, in a manner of saying, identified with upadhis and is miserable. When through spiritual practices, the ego, represented by the index finger, turns towards God and meets God, represented by the thumb, then a great wisdom dawns upon the seeker. The seeker vanishes, and what was sought is discovered as his or her true self. So Chit means Jnana. Chin Mudra is the same as Jnana Mudra, and Chin Mudra represents the union of the Jiva with Brahma, and therefore the Chin Mudra represents the wisdom of Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are searching for completeness in hundreds of other things. You know, you are yourself the completeness you are seeking. Handle your mind, calm your mind, enrich your mind with Viveka Vairagya. Then the mind will truly be able to turn inward. And then, to its own astonishment, the mind will discover, oh my, what I have been looking for is not away, is within me. On one hand, Dakshināmurti has Chinmudra. On the other, he holds fire, the fire of knowledge. The fire of knowledge, yes. And another is fire, please remember, is one of the 8 forms, 8 components or 8 aspects of God praised in the Vedas as ashta-moorti-bhrid. Some of you have studied Upadesha-sara, and there is a reference to this ashta-moorti-bhrid. In Dakshināmurti Stotra also, Bhuram, Bam, Senalo, Nilo, there's a shloka that talks about ashta-moorti-bhrid. Bhrita means holding, having 8 aspects. And what are they? 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, and earth. 5 elements. Sun, moon, and the Jivatma. The representation of Dakshināmurti covers these 8 aspects. How? Take space. In one of his hands, he holds Damaru. Shiva holds Damaru, and rotating it, dum 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 dum, the sound is supposed to come. But leave aside that sound emanating from it, it has its own meaning. Damaru is, after all, a certain enclosure. And what does it enclose? Space. Damaru, therefore, represents space. And then, what about air? As we have, he has matted locks, jata, and In many proper representations, he wears a band holding them together at the forehead, a little above the forehead. A band holding all the matted locks in place. The hair of Parameshwara is kept in place by a headband, says a commentator. This headband represents Vayu, presence of Vayu, going round. Vayu keeps going round. So the headband going round the head of Lord Shiva, holding the matted locks, indicates Vayu. Space, air, fire. Shiva is seen to hold fire in one of his four hands. Tattvamasi in one hand, fire in the second. In a third hand, he holds the Vedas. Vedas have all the knowledge. It is through jnana that the root cause of our suffering is dispelled. Ajnana goes away by jnana, and jnana is contained in the Vedas. And in the fourth hand, he holds the famous picture. He has, I think we covered, Damaru and fire, Chinmudra and Vedas. Yeah. Damaru representing space, fire representing fire, one of the five elements, Chinmudra representing that extraordinary communication, Tattvamasi, and Vedas representing the source of knowledge. Now to complete the ashta-moorti, we covered space, air and fire. What about water? In the great divine form of Shiva, you have Ganga upon his head. That represents the fourth element, Panchabhutas, the fourth, Chaturtha among the Pancha. And earth, the whole form of Shiva, is made of Prathivi. Especially in temples or in ashrams, if you behold a Dakshināmurti statue, whether it's made of clay or of Panchaloha, anything, that solid murti, the solid statue, represents the earth element. Ashta-moorti is five elements plus sun, moon and Jivatma. In a proper representation, traditional representation of Dakshināmurti, behind him on one side, the sun is shining, that is Surya. The moon is right upon his head, that is Chandra. 7 out of 9, rather, 7 out of 8 are over. The eighth one, Jivatma, it is those 4 disciples sitting in front of Shiva who are the Jivatmas, who represent all of us, countless living beings seeking liberation. And these 4 most eminent among the Jivatmas are on the threshold of realization. Thus, Dakshināmurti represents the ashta-moorti-bhrid Deva. As many scriptures talk about that eightfold manifestation of Shiva. Now we proceed to think about who God is in the first place. In the Vedanta Drishti, God is Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana of this universe. Let's go backwards from the last word. Karana. God is a cause of all that is, including us. Okay? What kind of Karana? Upadana Karana. Every bit of this creation, Kana Kaname, Gata Gatame, as they call it, every particle that goes into this creation is God himself. It is not different from God. Therefore, abhinna. And in the Mundaka Upanishad, you have that illustration. A spider from the waxy substance coming out of itself, not brought from somewhere else. The spider does not order the waxy substance from Amazon or Flipkart or no. The waxy substance comes from within the spider, with which it creates the web. That is the illustration. Don't cling too much to the illustration. Understand what it conveys. The material required for this creation is not different from God. Thus, abhinna upadana karana and abhinna nimitta karana. Nimitta karana is the intelligence. A potter, to make a pot, requires clay, that is material cause, upadana karana. And more than the material, the potter has to have an idea what I want to make. And he must know how to make it. So that's called intelligence. Abhinna, the intelligence that goes into creating this universe, maintaining it for a while, then withdrawing it, is not away from God. He is not bhinna, but that material is abhinna, or he is abhinna from the material, from the intelligence too. He is not different from the material, he is not different from the intelligence. Nimitta and upadana are in God. In the case of the potter, it is not so. The potter has some knowledge today. If he meets with some accident, he may lose that knowledge. He may not be able to create a pot. So, Buddhi Shakti, in the case of a ordinary mortal potter, may come to him and leave him. And clay, there may be supply of clay or there may not be any supply of clay. Right? And in the case of God, everything is within him. So, abhinna nimitta upadana karanam is God. And Vedanta is full of lot of illustrations. You have a shirt, let us say, and just as the cloth by which the shirt is made constitutes the shirt. If the cloth is taken away, there is no shirt. Or from the cloth, if you remove the threads, there is no cloth. From the threads, if you remove the material with which the thread is made, there is no thread. So from this universe, if you remove God, there is no universe. So as our understanding of God rises higher and higher, we will appreciate that God is everything. And in various temples, when a statue is brought and people plan to worship it after that, in the opening ceremony, before that opening actually takes place, there are a lot of rituals. And one key word in these rituals is prana pratishta. Certain special mantras along with the appropriate Veda mantras are recited, and typically they mean in the statue, the priests touch the eyes and say, we bring prana into the eyes. We bring the power of sight. We bring the power of hearing. We bring the power of thinking. So one by one, various powers that are found in a living being are invoked into that idol. This is an exercise. It's an esoteric ritual, we may say. And in reality, this universe is already pervaded by God. But you and I may not be able to contemplate that. Therefore, for our ease, for our convenience, in a statue, we see God. So Dakshināmurti statue with Prana Pratishta is found in many temples. So there are two words in Sanskrit, avatara and uddhara. We bring that all-pervasive God for our convenience in the statue. For what? So that we may rise from our ill-conceived limitation to the unlimited, infinite reality of our existence. Thus, the form of Dakshināmurti, the symbolism, is indeed inspiring. And having said something about prana pratishta, I must say that as somebody does upasana, saying that this idol is not just stone, in fact, it is a very sad, wrong criticism of Hinduism that they worship stones, they worship mere idols. We never worship mere idols. In the idol, we worship the all-pervasive God, and we worship God seen in a certain way in the idol. Like in the national flag, people may see the country. The flag represents the country. Anyway, that is another topic from basics of religion, you may say. And lastly, there is a lot of such beautiful symbolic meanings associated with Dakshināmurti. But for this brief session, in the form of Sri Dakshināmurti, you have two more things that have a powerful symbolism. In some of the forms, instead of fire, Dakshināmurti is holding a japamala. Japamala. You and I, sadhakas, jivatmas, do japa Om Namah Shivaya, and turn a bead by bead in the rosary. Why is Lord Shiva holding japamala? Why is Lord Shiva often seen with the eyes half closed? He is setting an example for all of us. If we cannot learn from our father or uncle, mother or grandmother who are doing some japa, if we don't learn from them, Shiva says, okay, look at me and learn from me at least. When elders fail to inspire us, God directly comes into the scene and inspires us. Japamala is the sadhana. So on one hand, this Dakshināmurti asks us, do sadhana. Don't just be a talking Vedanti, just talking some high philosophy, but without doing sadhana, having all kinds of kama krodha in you, that is not good. Do sadhana. Japamala represents the instruction to do sadhana. And last part of this whole exercise, below him, below his foot, is a demonic form, short, lying down, and that demon is called Apasmāra. Apasmāra, the demonic form, represents all kinds of outer and inner obstacles to sadhana. So Lord Shiva is telling us, I am asking you to do sadhana, and if your complaint is about numerous tapas, adi bhautika, adi daivika, adhyatmika tapas, my health doesn't permit, my financial condition is very bad these days, the country's political scenario is in turmoil, something or the other. Young and old, women and men, all are good in coming out with some excuse. Shiva says, have faith in me. Whatever be your limitations, whatever be the afflictions in your life, I will keep all of them under check. Thus, Apasmāra is held under control by 1 foot of Lord Shiva, stamping him down as though. Thus, in several ways, Shri Dakshināmurti has so much of suggestions to all of us how our sadhana should be, what the ultimate wisdom is. Therefore, worshipping Shri Dakshināmurti can be a highly profitable exercise in our journey to the liberating wisdom. Om Namah Shivaya. Shri Dakshināmurtaye Namaha. Okay.
This participant may ask question either
Yes.
by raising the hand or putting in chat box, or just unmute yourself and you can ask the question. Oh. Okay.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Somebody said something?
Thank you, Swamiji. It was nice.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Some simple stuff. In fact, while cleaning my shelf the other day, I came across, I don't know, this may not be visible. Yeah, this now sort of, okay. A little booklet by Swami Dayananda Saraswati. It's a booklet on Dakshināmurti, just some 4 pages. Swami Dayananda Saraswati has a beautiful ashram in Rishikesh where there is a Dakshināmurti statue. And maybe during its inauguration or sometime he gave a short talk that was brought out as a little booklet which covers all these points in a very traditional and very good language.
Swamiji,
Yeah. Tell me.
I mean, close by 4 rishis are sitting. I mean, 2 Sabda Rishi and 2 other rishis.
True.
And who are those rishis?
Yes, the Rishis are said to be, in some context, it is said some old Rishis, names are not mentioned. Elsewhere, as I mentioned in the lecture, they are Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Sujata. But I do see a little issue there. These Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat, and Sanat Sujata, they are supposed to be ever young. So these are in Hinduism, it's being a very ancient religion. Many legends, many Puranic stories, many accounts of ancient times are presented in multiple ways, different versions. So with regard to these white-bearded old sannyasis, or they could be grahasthas, we do not know their names. The Dhyana Shloka just says, Vruddha Shishyaha Gurur Yuva. The Guru is a young form and disciples are old. Or you may regard it Sanak Sanandana, Sanat and Sanat Sujata. Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Sujata. Yeah, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana and Sanat Sujata. These could be young, however, we always believed in some kind of symbolic representation. Considering their intellectual and emotional maturity, an artist them as very old. So they could be old in age, but ever young in their looks. But the artist has the liberty to show somebody who is emotionally old. You know, you have in expressions like Jnana Vriddha. Some people are Vayo Vriddha by physical age and maybe by looks. But some others are Jnana Vriddha. And the artist, moment he hears the word Vriddha, takes the liberty to show them as with white beard and so on. This freedom given to artists also is another unique aspect of Sanatana Dharma. Lot of freedom is given. Shiva himself appears sometimes as Ardhanarishwara. And I came across some pictures of Bala Shiva also. Bala Shiva, which is very rare. Bala Krishna is common. So we have a lot of artistic freedom in our tradition. So to sum up my answer, the only answer I have is in one of the versions, the four disciples are explicitly mentioned as Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Sujata. Swami Dayananda's booklet also says the four disciples sculpted at the base are Jivas. They are Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, Sanat Sujata. These four disciples are the ones who received this knowledge, and thus it comes down to us even till today. These are 3 sentences in this little booklet.
Thank you, Guruji.
You're welcome.
Hari Om Guruji.
Ah.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Can I? Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Ashta-moorti-bhrid, you said, Swamiji. Bhrid, I want to know the meaning. Then for ashta-moorti, you said 5 elements.
Correct.
Sun, moon,
Surya, Chandra, and Jiva.
Jiva, not intellect.
Not what?
Intellect.
Jiva.
Surya, Chandra.
Not intellect. Jivatma.
How is the Jiva represented there in his this thing?
Yes, Swami Dayananda has explicitly written in the total representation of Dakshināmurti, the 4 old disciples, they are the Jivatma. And he includes them in his divine manifestation. Like somewhere else, you know, Dattatreya appears with dogs, holding dogs. The dogs are part of his, you know, divine manifestation. And it is said those dogs represent the Vedas, one meaning given. So, in Upadesha Sara of Ramana Maharshi, it is said, Jagata Ishadi Yukta Sevanam ashta-moorti-bhrid Deva Pujanam. Shri Ramana Maharshi says, if you serve the world, if you serve people around you, if you serve all living beings around you, with the understanding that for me these are God, these people are my God, then he says he endorses it. That's also fine. Without dismissing ritualistic puja, he says, well, if you serve humanity, if you serve all life forms, that is also a worship of Deva Pujanam. In what way? Ashta-moorti-bhrid. So there are also all those, if you serve a neighbor, if you help some poor person, that is the Jivatma there. And Jivatma is one of the 8 forms of God. So in this scenario, the 4 disciples are the Jivatma. And sun, moon, etc. we mentioned. Fire, Damaru representing space and so on.
What is Bhrid, Swamiji? You said something I forgot.
Bhrid is just as, yeah. See, you call Vyasa and Shankara, you know, Shankara is Bhashya Krit. So, Kru is Karoti. Bhashyam Karoti. Bhashyam Kritavan. Bhashyam Likhitavan. Iti Shankaraha Bhashya Krit. What is that? Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande. So Vyasa is Sutra Krit. Brahma Sutras Vyasa wrote. He is Sutra Krit, Kru Dhatu. And Shankaracharya is Bhashya Krit. And grammar, two of them dual, Krit, Kritau, Kritaha. Now take the verbal root, not Kru but Bhr. Vibharti. Vibharti is to hold, to have. If you keep a pen in your hand, I will call you, Lekani Bhrit. She is holding a pen in her hand. Vibharti, holding. So, come to ashta-moorti-bhrid. Ishvaraha ashta-moorti-bhrid asti. What does it mean? Ishvaraha ashta-moortiin vibharti. He holds 8 forms. So, holder, let me make it simple. My grammar mind goes round and round, then comes upon sometimes a simple. Bhrit means holder, a pen holder, a book holder, and God is 8 form holder. That's how it is.
Swamiji, there are some questions in the chat box.
Oh, really? I'll read. I'll go to chat box. I'm not finding, where is that? Chat is here. Eight entries are there. All of them may not be questions. Thou art that Joseph Campbell. Oh, happy to know. I know about Campbell, but I didn't know there was a book by Campbell on this topic. Thou art that. Beautiful. Then Chinmay Mission JP Nagar. Hari Om Chinmay Mission JP Nagar. Oh, what is that comment?
No, that is, I tried to get it from the YouTube, but now I cannot because of this screen sharing.
Okay. Ramakant asks, is it that transfer of knowledge was only through silence? I touched upon that aspect. While the popular notion is Dakshināmurti transmitted the highest wisdom through silence, just through silence, Swami Dayananda himself vehemently argues in one of his books that silence has not been acknowledged in the Shastras as a valid way of conveying wisdom. This is all popular representations who don't know the technicalities of the Shastras. It has to be the silence that follows a verbal communication. So Swami Dayanandaji, Swami Paramarthanandji, and a whole lot of great Vedanta scholars go by that understanding, that there has to be I called it apta vakya. Apta means a true well-wisher. When you are a young child, mother and father are your best well-wishers. When you go to high school, etc., maybe some good teachers. Later on, some good people around. But as you embark on the spiritual journey and get going, a Sadguru is your best, friend, well-wisher, apta, and he will never let you down, or she will never let you down. So this Tattvamasi coming from a Sadguru is also called apta vakya. So it's a vakya, something said, not silence. Therefore, I covered it in the lecture. I would once more summarily say that I respect that view. There is a verbal communication culminating in silence. It's not silence from the beginning till the end. But popular meaning, we always have revered gurus and sages so much. We are fond of saying, in that sage presence, in that sannidhi, we get liberated. Nobody needs to say anything. Nobody needs to ask anything. In this way, we express our devotion. Whereas these great scholars, they say all that devotion, very good, God bless you. But the technicality of it is there has to be a verbal communication. So silence following an excellent discourse, maybe just a few words, That's what does the job.
We always recommend mananam.
Correct. See, Aptavakya begins with Shravanam. Aptavakya, that those very, very insightful words which shift you, which change your way of seeing things. They then blossom into manana, into nididhyasana. Then there could be a silent explosion or a silent implosion, as they say. Yes. Shravana, manana, and nididhyasana are part of that, how the Aptavakya operates. Now there is a question by Rekha, I think. Doing japa in the mind and not using a japamala, is this okay? Yeah, perfectly okay. If you have reasonable concentration, you don't need a japamala. Do it in the mind. Or does rosary have a more powerful effect as spiritual symbolism? Varies from sadhaka to sadhaka. Just like somewhere else they ask, is it necessary to close our eyes during meditation? Our answer is, for 9 out of 10 practitioners, it is seen to be helpful to keep the eyes closed. But we are liberal enough to say 1 out of 10 might be able to meditate better with eyes open. Sometimes you go to a beautiful park with a lake with some ducks, swimming on the water. You might keep your eyes open and you might go into a meditative state, repeating some mantra or otherwise. The eyes open and the scene is very favorable, conducive. Could be good. Eyes being closed might be good when the scene in front of you could be more distracting. In my own bedroom, I sit and I keep my eyes open. My eyes fall upon some object. I say, this needs some repair. This window needs to be repainted. So distraction may take place. So I keep my eyes closed. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I do. So coming to your question, a lot of people find a rosary helpful. You try out. If you find it doesn't give you much help, you can do japa mentally without rosary also. Okay. Hari Om. 5 new messages. You want to show now? It goes bunch by bunch, is it?
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om, please say.
The one additional point about the 4 Rishis, that is, they were already sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikarihi. They were all ready to receive the knowledge, Atma Gnana. That is what they say, I think. Is it okay?
Okay, sadhana chatushtaya. So the 4 people sitting in front of Dakshināmurti represent the 4 sadhana. 4 sadhanas.
No, sir. No, Swamiji. It is said that all these 4 shishas or Rishis, they were
each of them had sadhana chatushtaya.
Yeah, they had sadhana chatushtaya sampatti and they were ready to receive the knowledge.
Correct.
That's
that
why they said.
True. Yeah. Yes, that is totally acceptable. Because we already talked of the culmination of this teaching process. The Aptavakya doing its job and then they are sitting in silence. That can happen only if every one of them is in that fit condition. Sadhana chatushtaya sampanna. That is very well said. Yeah. All of them are sadhana chatushtaya sampannas. But what they received comes to us, though we are not yet sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, we can make a little progress at our level. Yes, yes.
And also it is said that the mauna of Dakshināmurti is manifested in the earth in the form of Shankaracharya. Charati bhuvane Shankaracharya.
Ah, that's so nicely said. Very nice, very nice. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, see, our tradition has so much of reflection on all these various meanings from different angles of view have been given. Therefore, I think it was one Swami Dayananda only who said with a touch of humor, he said, I can go on and on and on with lectures for 100 lives. And the audience was wondering why he said that. Then he said, our ancestors, so many commentators, so many rishis, so many writers, they have left behind such a legacy for us. So dwelling on it, trying to explain it to an audience, not 100 years, 100 lives can be spent and still there will be material remaining. It's so true. Though that doesn't mean that everything we read is of the highest quality. In Vedanta literature also, there are some material which is a little incorrect. Then there is some material which is very 24 karat gold. So you and I have to be selective as we go, proceed further.
Yes.
Simply reading any book that comes to our hands can sometimes cause waste of time, if to say the least. Sorry, somebody said something.
There's one more question in the chat box.
In the chat box, I see it now. Lata Sonpal, what is the symbolic meaning of baby Shiva sleeping with the Trishul? Well, to me it seems the personal preference of a devotee who likes to see Lord Shiva in a baby form. The particular devotee's love for Shiva expresses, just like a mother who loves a child, wishes to see the child one day like a girl. So though it's a boy, she will put girl's dress. Or though the child may be a girl, the mother out of her love puts a boy's dress to that child and enjoys that day. So this is, I don't think in any scripture that baby Shiva with Trishul is described. But I use the word liberty, freedom that Sanatana Dharma has given always to people. As you know, Ganesha is shown in all kinds of, playing cricket, playing various instruments. A week ago, a little video came where Ganesha is sitting on a rocking chair and reading a book. Ganesha and that chair, all of them are in gold color. So I don't think there is any special symbolic meaning except a permitted way of expressing one's devotion. So someone wanted to see Shiva as a baby Shiva. Otherwise, Shiva is always seen elderly. Shiva without, with clean shaven, all are permitted. Perhaps I don't know of any shloka beard. Our literature is very vast. Somebody may find a sloka of either Shiva having a beard or Shiva not having a beard. There may be. Right now, we don't have scriptural support for either of them exclusively. Okay, looks good. Okay. So I guess that is all this. Time is also up. Wonderful. May Lord Shiva, Dakshināmurti bless us all to get sadhana chatushtaya first and get the Om Namah Shivaya. Hari Om.
Pranam Swamiji.